My child, stop, don't click away. If you exit now, you'll miss something crucial. Someone is trying to harm you. Hear this as a sheltering voice that rushes forward not to frighten, but to protect, for there are moments when the world leans toward haste, and your attention becomes the prize that danger seeks to steal. Do not mistake the urgency for alarm without reason. There is a careful purpose in this call to remain, to pause, to let what is being offered in this very space find its way into the places inside you that have been raw, weary, and too often unattended. There are forces that work in corners where light is thin, tactics that prefer distraction and hurry, because those are the conditions in which wounds grow unnoticed and strongholds form without challenge. If you step away now, you will slip past a blessing prepared to intercept a lie. You will miss a word that could steady your heart. You will abandon a moment of shelter set aside for you when vulnerability met you unawares. Stay, breathe. Let me match the cadence of your pulse for a moment and keep you grounded. There are plots that do not always shout their arrival. They whisper, dress themselves in convenience, then smile from a distance while they wait for the second you glance elsewhere. The attempt to harm you may come not only from obvious enemies, but from subtle betrayals, invitations that promise quick relief but deliver deeper chains, relationships that warm in public but tighten in private, thoughts that pretend to be truth while they are only worn-out lies echoing in your mind. I am not painting a fearful picture to bind you. I am casting light on what the eyes of haste often miss. When protection arrives, it frequently comes wrapped in patience and pause, in the insistence that you do not hurry away before the work of healing has its say. Do not think this is only about danger outside. Often the greatest threats slip through the door of your own habits. Numbing amusements that steal focus, careless words that wound rather than mend, small compromises that seem harmless until they reshape the borders of your life. The harm intended for you loves the moment your guard drops because, in that loosened second, old doubts, past shames, and present fears move like currents beneath your feet. Remaining means resisting the ease of running. It means choosing the disciplined gaze that discerns the subtle snares that would otherwise claim what you value most. Your peace, your clarity, your capacity to trust again. There are guardians unseen who walk close as you wait. There is a tenderness present that will not leave if you resist the impulse to flee for false safety. This instruction to stay is not a command born of control. It is an act of mercy. The very thing you fear losing by remaining, time, attention, comfort, is the same conduit through which restoration will come. If you leave now, you may postpone healing, deepen confusion, and offer space to the very harm that was waiting for your quick exit. But if you remain, even when your limbs ache with fatigue and your mind longs for escape, you give yourself the rare and holy chance to receive counsel, to be steadied, to be clothed with insight that shuts down the designs formed in shadow. Remember that danger often tests the edges of your character. It watches where your patience thins, where your pride softens into defensiveness, where your anger is easiest to ignite. Those are the places plotted against because once they are lit, decisions follow that compromise your future steps. An enemy, whether spirit of discord, human malice, or the habit of ancient fears, will study the pattern of your attention, the moments you are most apt to click away, and it will time its pressure accordingly. But you are not helpless in the presence of such intent. There is wisdom that arrives when you cling to the stillness long enough for the truth to surface, for the clutter to clear, for the guidance designed to protect you to find purchase in the soil of your will. So remain. Let the words that press into this hour sink into the crevices where bruises once hid. Allow silence to do its refining work rather than seeing it as a void you must escape. Let the invitation to stay become a ceremony of protection, a deliberate refusal to hand your attention to whatever would move you into harm. This is how boundaries form, not by snapping in sudden fear, but by steady refusal to be distracted into decisions that would cost you dearly. The enemy delights in small openings. You are called to the sacred art of guarding small moments so that the large ones do not betray you. If you feel the pull to leave because the pain is too sharp, know that to remain can sometimes be an act of courageous endurance that changes the outcome. There is a mercy that comes when suffering is not hidden behind the next click, when it is instead faced and met with patient care. Healing is not always quick, but it is faithful. The minute you hurry out of the doorway, you may miss the hand reaching to steady you. The subtle correction that would avert a misstep, the instruction that would make the path ahead passable. Do not trade the possibility of rescue for the illusion of immediate reprieve. Listen to this. Protection is rarely dramatic on the outside. It often arrives in the form of a small thought that warns you, a friend who senses the tilt and offers firm counsel, a quiet reordering that prevents a worse turn. The harm you imagine may be loud and terrifying, or it may be quiet and conniving. Either way, your refusal to click away is the first act of resistance. When you master the habit of staying when danger whispers, you teach your whole life the discipline of discernment. You become one who sees the patterns, who notices the pauses that matter, who closes the doors the foe thought you'd leave open. And when the attack is not merely external but internal, the return of an accusing voice, the resurgence of shame, the sudden collapse of hope, staying allows the healing balm to reach the afflicted place. Do not underestimate the potency of a single, unhurried breath that centers you, the steadiness of a soul that refuses to be hurried into reaction. Those quiet acts are armaments in their own right. They dismantle traps that would have seemed inevitable if you had fled into panic. Remain also because community sometimes stands ready in places you cannot yet see. There are allies arranged along your route, people whose presence you will meet because you did not click away, because you kept listening, because you allowed counsel to find you. A timely word, a necessary truth, a practical instruction. These things often arrive through the patient staying of someone who will not allow you to float away into harm. If you leave now, you may cross past the very hand meant to shield you. If you linger, you give those guardians the chance to act. Here without trembling, I do not aim to frighten you into paralysis. I aim to teach you vigilance without cynicism, courage without brashness, and discernment without paranoia. There is a holy balance to be kept, a readiness to act when action is needed, and a resolve to remain when staying is the safer, wiser course. The counsel to remain now is rooted in the knowledge that some dangers can be disarmed only by presence, that some lies lose their power when you refuse to entertain them, that some ruin collapses when you do not give it the moment it craves. And so, my child, do not click away. Let this hour be your chosen stand, a deliberate pause where protection can form, where truth can surface, where the snares designed for a hurried heart fall inert. Sit with the discomfort long enough for clarity to arrive. Keep your gaze steady long enough for intervention to align on your behalf. Do not trade the extraordinary gift of rescue for the seeming relief of escape. When this hour closes, you will look back and see how something pivotal shifted the minute you chose to remain. You will find that the choice to stay carved new strength into your character, opened doors you did not know stood ajar, and closed traps that would have cost you dearly. Your future self will thank you for the patience, the courage, the refusal to flee at the first whisper of fear. Your enemies will discover that haste is not your companion. Discernment is. Your heart will learn that some of the most crucial victories are won not by swift moves, but by steadfast presence. So breathe again, anchor your thought, keep your hand from the exit. The protection you need wants to find you, and it will not find you if you are already gone. Stay, receive, and be guarded in the way that only the patient can be. I love you with a steadiness that seeks your good more than your immediate comfort, and I will not let you be hurried into harm if you will only stay long enough to be held. Beloved, there are snares in the world, subtle, quiet, and crafted to mislead the unguarded. Beloved, understand this. Not every danger arrives with thunder in its footsteps or shadow in its wake. Some perils take the shape of comfort, of convenience, the voices that appear kind while nudging you toward a path that bends away from wisdom. There are designs woven in silence, arrangements hidden behind pleasant words, and intentions dressed in charm that seek to draw the unwatchful into places where clarity grows dim. These are not always dramatic schemes, nor are they always loud in their approach. They often drift into your days disguised as opportunities, distractions, or impulses that press you forward without allowing you a breath to think. The world has a way of offering illusions wrapped in golden paper. A person's smile might mask rivalry, an invitation might mask compromise. The moment that looks harmless might carry consequences that echo long after the choice is made. You must recognize how many paths curve subtly, almost imperceptibly, until the turn is complete, and you find yourself far from the steady ground where peace once held you firm. It is not malice you must fear most, but subtlety, those gentle nudges that encourage you to trade conviction for convenience, purpose for ease, integrity for a flush of temporary relief. There are pressures that whisper instead of shout, that seem harmless simply because they do not roar. They tug at your attention, asking for just a little look, a little step, a little compromise, and each little thing builds a doorway large enough for regret to walk through. These forces rely on haste, on fatigue, on longing, on moments when your heart aches and your judgment softens. They thrive when reflection is set aside, when discernment is neglected, when the voice of truth is pushed behind the noise of emotion or urgency. Beloved, vigilance is not paranoia. It is wisdom wearing armor. Remaining awake means refusing to wander blindly into situations that have not earned your trust. It means slowing your pace when everything around you pushes you to move quickly. It means questioning the glitter that begs for your admiration. It means testing every invitation, every influence, every impulse that seeks to guide your steps. Pitfalls in life are rarely labeled. They do not announce themselves as threats. They simply wait for the one who moves without looking, listens without evaluating, or believes without discerning. You are called to move with a steadiness that refuses to be rushed into choices that could steal your peace, dim your vision, or burden your spirit. Consider how many times trouble begins not with grand betrayal, but with tiny allowances, letting your guard down when exhaustion settles, trusting too easily because you long to be understood, agreeing to something small because saying no feels uncomfortable. In those little moments, the world tests your strength, your conviction, and your ability to hold to truth even when emotion tries to lead. This is why you must be anchored, thoughtful, alert. The quiet traps of life do not ensnare those who stay attentive. They crumble under the weight of caution. They lose their power when examined under the light of patience. They fade when confronted with deliberate, mindful choices. Beloved, step with intention. Consider the direction of your decisions. Listen for the tone beneath people's words, the motive behind their actions, the emotion behind your impulses. Hold fast to clarity when confusion tries to blur your sight. The world may set snares in subtle places, but those who walk awake, those who pause, breathe, and seek wisdom, are not easily shaken. Let every step be measured. Let every decision be weighed. Let every influence be examined. For in doing so, you move through life with strength, not fear, with discernment, not dread, with wisdom, not worry. I am watching those forces that try to break the glow within you, and I guard what they attempt to diminish. I see every shadow that tries to creep toward your peace, every whisper of discouragement, that attempts to settle into your thoughts, every influence that hopes to dim the brightness within you. Nothing that aims to distort your gladness escapes my notice. Every scheme wrapped in false friendliness, every intention coated in subtle envy, every action meant to unsettle your spirit stands exposed before my sight. I observe each attempt to drain your enthusiasm, each effort to make you doubt your worth, each moment designed to steal the gentle warmth that rises from your heart. And though these forces seem hidden, cloaked in quiet gestures or passing words, they stand uncovered before me as plainly as footprints in fresh soil. There are those who speak softly yet carry resentment in their silence. I see that. There are those who smile on the surface while hoping you stumble in secret. I see that. There are circumstances that push against you, trying to wear you down through exhaustion, distraction, or subtle despair. I see that as well. But my gaze is not passive. I do not merely stand at a distance observing. I step between you and the weights that wish to pull you under. I strengthen you when invisible pressures reach for your courage. I breathe calm into your soul when confusion tries to wrap itself around your clarity. Every plan meant to drain your joy is measured, countered, and overturned long before it is permitted to touch the core of who you are. I know how precious your inner light is, how vital your hope is, how necessary your laughter is to the unfolding of your journey. So when bitterness attempts to interrupt you, when negativity tries to slip into your emotions, when old wounds rise to reclaim territory within you, I surround your heart with steadiness. I guard the places where your joy grows, nurturing them gently so that no harsh intent can uproot what I have planted. I watch the currents of your days, the people you encounter, the thoughts you wrestle with, the environments you step into, and I stand as your shield against influences that would twist your kindness, sour your optimism, or suffocate your dreams. I see everything that seeks to discourage you, and I meet it with protection. Even when you feel unaware of what presses near, even when you do not recognize the subtle attempts to unsettle your peace, I am already standing in defense, turning aside what would diminish you, transforming what was meant to harm into something that strengthens you instead. Your joy is not fragile when placed in my hands. The world may try to smother it through weariness, disappointment, comparison, or doubt, but I guard its flame with care deeper than you understand. Every smile you offer, every moment your heart lifts, every spark of gratitude you feel is noticed by me, and I will not allow destructive intentions to erase the beauty growing within you. So walk without fear, move forward with quiet confidence. Trust that even when you do not perceive the undercurrents around you, I do. I see every shadow before it reaches your path. I recognize every hidden attempt to unsettle you, and I remain vigilant over the joy that belongs to you. Nothing that tries to take it from you goes unseen, and nothing that threatens it will prevail. My protection is on you, child, and you are safe from every force that rises against your peace. My covering rests upon you like a shield forged from light, surrounding every part of your being with strength that does not weaken and guardianship that never sleeps. Child, my watchfulness wraps around your steps, forming a barrier no shadow can slip through, no darkness can penetrate, no whisper of fear can unravel. Even when you feel unseen or vulnerable, I stand over you with a presence far stronger than the pressures that attempt to shake you. Nothing that seeks to disturb your calm, break your spirit, or drain your courage is hidden from me. I perceive every weight that presses against your heart, every heaviness that tries to settle in your thoughts, every doubt that attempts to creep into your confidence, and I rise like a wall between you and the forces that would try to harm your joy. The struggles that move toward you in silence, the discouragement that waits at the edges of your emotions, the subtle negativity that tries to slip into your days, I confront them before they ever reach your inner being. I dismantle the unseen burdens that hope to wear you down. I scatter the shadows that attempt to surround your hope. I lift away the heaviness that wants to settle on your shoulders. My protection is not gentle or passive. It is fierce, deliberate, unyielding. It stands like an unbreakable fortress built around the tender places of your soul, defending you from battles you do not even realize are unfolding. When fear tries to rise, I strike it down. When despair tries to whisper, I silence it. When anxiety tries to coil itself around your breath, I cut it loose. When old wounds attempt to reopen, I cover them with healing that cannot be undone. Every blow meant to weaken you dissolves at the edge of my presence. Every storm that intended to intimidate you is stopped at the threshold of my keeping. Every pressure that pushes too hard encounters the immovable strength of my hand upon your life. Child, you dwell under a covering that does not fade when you are weary, does not lessen when you are uncertain, does not waver when circumstances grow heavy. My protection holds firm even when you feel fragile, even when your confidence trembles, even when hope feels distant. I guard your path when you are awake and when you rest, when your mind is steady and when your thoughts feel chaotic, when your voice is strong and when you struggle to speak at all. Not a single moment passes without my safeguarding surrounding you. And those forces that try to disrupt your peace, fear, temptation, confusion, deception, discouragement, they may attempt to circle, but they cannot break through my defense. They may try to whisper, but they cannot overturn my truth. They may try to intimidate, but they cannot outrun my authority. I have already secured ground for you that no darkness can steal. I have already built protection around you that no storm can breach. I have already declared safety over you that no shadow can rewrite. Stand in confidence, child, because you are not unguarded. Stand in calm, for you are not left vulnerable. Stand in quiet strength, because you are held beneath wings that cannot be pierced, defended by power that cannot be defeated, carried by love that does not retreat. My protection is not a momentary shelter. It is a continual presence that surrounds you day after day, hour after hour, breath after breath. You are safe, not because danger does not exist, but because I stand between you and everything that would attempt to shake your spirit. You are secure, not because life is simple, but because I am greater than anything that rises against you. You are covered, not because you are strong at every moment, but because my strength encircles you completely. Walk forward without trembling. Live without dread. Move without hesitation. My protection is on you, child, and nothing has the power to undo what I have placed over your life. Bitterness is a venom that eats its way into every thought. It begins as a single drop, barely noticeable, a small sting in the heart, a quiet ache that whispers you were wronged and deserve to hold tightly to the wound. Yet that single drop does not stay small, it spreads. It travels through memories, rewrites conversations, colors perceptions, and transforms passing moments into heavy storms. It settles into the corners of the mind and reshapes the way you see yourself, the way you view others, and the way you experience the world. It clings to past hurts like a shadow with long fingers, pulling you back again and again into moments that no longer exist, moments that should have been allowed to rest, but instead rise repeatedly to steal your peace. This venom seeps deeper over time, turning gentle emotions into sharpened edges and warm thoughts into cold, echoing chambers. It makes the heart replay old pain until anger becomes familiar and forgiveness feels impossible. It convinces you that holding on protects you, that letting go means surrendering your dignity, when in truth the chains tighten around you, not the one who hurt you. If left unchallenged, bitterness stains every new beginning, poisons blessings before they blossom, and distorts your ability to recognize joy, even when it stands right in front of you offering its hand. It consumes slowly, quietly, gradually, rarely arriving with thunder. rarely revealing its true nature at first. It uses subtle lies, nudging your thoughts until you no longer see situations clearly. It drips into your expectations, causing you to anticipate disappointment. It forms cracks in relationships, turning simple misunderstandings into walls that feel impossible to climb. It drains the light from your hope, convincing you that protecting yourself means building barriers so high that nothing good can enter. And with every day it remains, the venom strengthens, weaving itself into your reactions, your choices, your responses. But bitterness is not only a thief, it is a sculptor of sorrow. It shapes the heart into something rigid, something easily wounded, something unable to lift itself out of heaviness. It turns compassion into suspicion, softness into hardness, patience into weariness. It takes the energy that should be used for healing and redirects it toward rehearsing pain. It turns the mind into a battlefield where peace rarely survives and where joy is pushed to the farthest edges, barely allowed to breathe. Yet the venom, though potent, is not permanent. It cannot remain where light is welcomed. It cannot thrive in a spirit that chooses release over resentment, humility over pride, restoration over revenge. When bitterness meets honesty, it begins to lose its grip. When it meets forgiveness, not forgetfulness, not approval of what was wrong, but the deliberate choice to stop drinking the poison, it dissolves. When the heart decides to stop feeding the wound and begins nurturing healing instead, bitterness weakens and fades like a shadow chased by morning. And when it fades, clarity returns. The heart lifts, the mind breathes. The inner world regains warmth and softness. The chains fall, the heaviness loosens, and the venom loses its power. Where bitterness once built walls, grace builds doors. Where resentment once fogged the mind, truth brings clear air. Where old hurts once spoke loudly, peace becomes the louder voice. Release is not weakness, it is strength. Letting go is not surrender. It is reclaiming the space that bitterness tried to occupy. When you choose to free yourself from that venom, you open the path for joy to return, for hope to thrive, and for love, steady, gentle, purifying love, to rise again within you without resistance. Even the smallest seed of faith can crack the hardest ground, an almost invisible speck carried in the quiet corners of your heart, unnoticed by others and sometimes even doubted by you, yet carrying within it a force stronger than despair, heavier than fear, than brighter than any darkness that has ever tried to silence you. This tiny spark does not shout, does not boast, does not demand attention. It simply exists, steady and humble, waiting for the moment your spirit allows it to take root. And once it settles into your inner soil, something begins to shift, slowly at first, then with unmistakable power. What once felt impossible begins to tremble. Walls you believed were unbreakable start to weaken. The heaviness that pressed upon you begins to loosen its grip as that little seed pushes upward with a strength far beyond its size. Faith does not need to be grand or eloquent. It does not require a perfect mind or an unwavering voice. It survives in trembling whispers, in fragile hopes, in weary prayers spoken through tears. It thrives in places where certainty cannot reach. It grows in moments when you feel small, powerless, and unsure. That is the beauty of it. Faith does not wait for ideal conditions. It plants itself in the cracks of your doubt, in the shadows of your worry, in the places where you fear nothing could ever grow again. And from those unlikely places, it rises with surprising determination, pushing through layers of discouragement, breaking through the hardened ground of old wounds and disappointments. Hard ground forms when life has pressed too heavily on the soul, when heartbreak has compacted your hope, when repeated trials have worn grooves of exhaustion, when unanswered questions have dried the soil of your expectancy. Yet even then, that little seed does not give up. It begins its work in silence, softening the soil bit by bit, loosening the tight grip of fear, gently creating space where there was none. It pushes against the cold, against the dryness, against the weight, until the barriers that seemed eternal begin to split. Cracks form where you never imagined movement was possible, and the first signs of new life appear, fragile, yes, but real, undeniable, and full of promise. Faith breaks ground not with violence, but with persistence. It is a patient force, a slow miracle, a quiet revolution happening beneath the surface long before your eyes can see the change. It pushes back against despair until despair loses its footing. It rises through layers of doubt until doubt can no longer bury it. It holds its course even when everything around you says nothing will change. And one day, the soil that once seemed impossible to penetrate bursts open, revealing growth you never imagined, strength you didn't know you carried, and hope that feels astonishing after so long without it. That tiny seed, overlooked, underestimated, almost forgotten, has the power to rewrite your entire landscape. It can transform barren places into gardens. It can turn dry seasons into flourishing ones. It can bring color where everything once felt gray. It can open doors that seemed permanently sealed. It can guide you toward paths you would have never discovered on your own. And as it grows, it invites more courage, more trust, more resilience, more peace. One seed becomes a stem becomes a branch, and a branch becomes a shelter where your spirit can rest. Nothing is too solid for faith to break through. No heart is too weary, no circumstance too rigid, no season too bleak. The smallest beginning can lead to the greatest transformation. And even when you do not see progress, the seed is working, reaching, expanding, preparing the ground for what is coming next. Hold to that tiny spark, honor it, protect it, allow it to breathe. For from that simple, quiet seed can rise a strength capable of reshaping your entire life. Amen.